pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Superintendent, no presentations.
No presentations tonight, Mr. Mayor.
Superintendent's report.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Over the past week and continuing next week as well, I've been involved in setting up and participating in vision activities with the administration team, faculty, school committee, and parents. The work is important for our future strategy. It's how we're going to define our future and then help decide what to focus on moving forward. I just want to thank everyone for volunteering to be part of it. And special thanks to Kathy Cummins and her team from AVC for being great facilitators. I just want to also, even though I didn't make a report, also just thank retired Chief of Police Bob Ferrulo, who came to our athletics night last night to speak to students and parents about the dangers of vaping, among other issues. But I just wanted to thank, this is a great partnership we have with the Middlesex Partnerships for Youth, and they provided our former Chief of Police, Rob Ferrulo, at no cost to the district to be able to come and speak to our student athletes and our parents last night. So again, just wanted to say thank you to them. This evening, we will have the public hearing on the FY20 budget. The budget workshop seemed very successful from my point of view. The administrative team was very happy and complimentary about how it worked. I heard several times how positive the meeting was and just wanted to share that with all of you. I wanted to all pass on the feelings of anxiety from some parents I've met with as well, talking about the FY21 budget. I think everyone is kind of understanding now the effects of what the transportation bid can have on the district, and there is a fair amount of anxiety from parents that's going to have a very negative effect on us. So I'm sharing that only to let you know what I'm hearing, just so you're aware of it as well. When you talk to your constituents, you know that that is a fear out there that parents are having. You know, as we continue the work and start planning our FY21 budget, I just want to make sure that we have a clear communication about what impact transportation will have on families. And I think that is us reviewing our policies, looking at best practices, and trying to figure out exactly what the right size and fit of transportation is for Marlborough Public Schools. I would like to, again, request another workshop so we can continue our work and continue to refine the school committee vision, mission, and core values. I think it's important to continue working together, and I think the first one was a success, and we'd like to see another one. I just want to thank, again, our continued partnership with the police department. As you'll see in the elementary schools over the next coming weeks and for the rest of the year, you'll see some of our police officers present during arrival, dismissal, lunch duty, and other times to walk through the school. I just want to let you know that that's a common practice that we're starting up, and we want to get you know, a police presence in the schools as a positive thing so the kids can start to get to know the officers and see them at different times during the year. So again, I just want to thank the mayor and Chief Georgie for their continued support of the public schools, and we're thrilled to continue with this opportunity. Two reminders, if I may. I put them out of order, but the first one, West Side Story, this weekend. Very excited. I'll be at the Saturday show. Bringing the in-laws. Very excited for what we're going to see. They're excited too. It's been the talk of Marblehead, so we're. And then the other thing is the Citywide Art Show, which is just fantastic, and we always see a huge representation, is going to be on April 4th. So mark your calendars.
Any questions? Ms. Bollinger.
I did reach out to our friend at MASC. I've probably forgotten her name. Dorothy. Thank you. And she's certainly willing to come back and facilitate again if we want to use her. We just need to come up with some dates.
That's what I was going to ask, was for some dates. If somebody wants to throw out some dates, and then we can.
Do you want to throw out some dates, or you want us to?
Would you rather me do that through email?
Yeah. Oh, I don't mean now.
No, not
Do a doodle poll, and we'll just see when we're available.
Sure.
Yeah, perfect.
Any other questions? Ms. Hennessy.
Thank you. I guess with the comments that you've received about kind of some anxiety or concerns relative towards the transportation situation. I guess my comment would be for the public to definitely stay kind of vigilant and aware as we start the RFP process, because we need to be cognizant that just looking at other bids, since you did your due diligence doing that combined bid situation, so we could really get a read on things, and we do know that there's going to be definitely cost implications. I do think it's just helpful, so as opposed to being anxious about it, being educated and aware. So I would just say from a public standpoint, I would be hopeful that our community really takes an active role of paying attention as we're working through that process, because I think that we're all looking to make sure we're finding the best solution that's going to work across the board for everyone in the community. And to your point, we do need to have some discussions about appropriate policy and practices to make sure that we're doing the best that we can for everybody.
I think that part of it is I just can't answer the question.
Right.
Because we just don't know how much it's going to go up. We know it's going to go up, but we don't know how much. And the ranges from the different communities are so, I mean, we have like 370 to 420, which is this huge range in availability and prices. So, I mean, that's part of it too. And I think as we get closer and closer, and then this fall, we'll see really where the market is, and we can project it a little bit better. So we'll have it with plenty of time to be able to make an impact if we need to. So it's part of the just, I can't answer that question.
Right.
We just don't know what the market's going to be when we rebid this in the fall.
And I think also just understanding that it's all going to be a process that is going to go hand in hand with the nature of having a new school opening too. And so it's just going to be a working through all of it together to get to the best solution for the whole community. But thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none. Mr. Diaz.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have 4 quick updates from Finance and Operations tonight. First one pertains to facilities. We recently completed a vestibule over at Richer, as well as we had an update of the fire alarm system at Whitcomb. We've also completed the camera work both here at ECC and at Kane. The sound and projection system at the Little Theater at the high school has also been updated. So thanks to the city, thanks to Andy White for their work on getting these upgrades for us. Ongoing projects will be updated. We'll be installing window screens at Richer during the April break, and we're also continuing doing fire alarm and camera updates throughout the district. The 3 remaining updates pertain to food services. On the week of March 4th, we had National Breakfast Week. We had a made-to-order parfait bar at Marlborough High, as well as yoga parfait at Whitcomb, and some other fun initiatives at the elementary level. The feedback was so positive that fruit parfait has been added as a permanent fixture to the breakfast menu. So Jenna wanted me to share that with everyone. In a couple of days, March 28th, Earl, I saw your jacket. Cafeterias will be celebrating baseball opening day with baseball themed menu. So Franks and beans for everybody. Cafeteria balances are currently at negative 3,600. We've gained some ground here. Last month it was 4,000, so we made up some ground. Still some work to do. Last year at this time we were at negative 2,200. I keep saying this because we keep doing it. We keep communicating. We're sending letters home. We're pushing applications. And there's constant communication between families and the schools. So very cognizant of this number. Lastly, our RFP for food services for food services management company was out. We've received the bids. We have 2 bidders. We have a committee to review the proposals. Thank you, Ms. Hennessy and Ms. Matthews, for volunteering. And a recommendation on that vendor will be forthcoming to the committee. That's all.
Question from the committee. Any questions? Seeing none, Ms. O'Brien.
Good evening. The district has had 2 program evaluations that we've completed so far this year. Linda Warren from Early Childhood Associates conducted an assessment of our preschool programs and services. The assessment consisted of interviews, surveys of administration, staff, and parents, observations, review of data, and review of student records and focus groups. Strengths that were highlighted included that we have a great amount of resources available to the preschool program. The majority of staff have a great deal of experience in education working in early childhood, in an early childhood setting. We have a high level of dedication from our staff. There's quality curriculum that's being implemented, and there's a high level of support from ECC administrators and a high level of satisfaction from parents. Based on the evaluation results, recommendations for program improvement include being able to increase therapist time in the classroom instead of pulling students out, increasing systems of communication and collaboration between teachers and adult support staff, changing the assessment tools that we're using and the assessment process for determining special ed eligibility, and there are suggestions for additional training and professional development of staff. Linda Warren is working throughout this spring with ECC administration staff on developing action steps on the high priority recommendations, and she'll also be facilitating long-range plans on the expanding preschool services once the district offices are moved from the building, once the fourth elementary school is completed. The second program evaluation that we had conducted examined our special ed therapeutic programs, the TLC program at the elementary and middle school. And at the high school, currently we don't have a TLC program. It's only available at the Hildreth Alternative School. This evaluation was conducted by Jeff Colucci from the Triumph Center, and it included observations and interviews of administrators, staff, and students. Some of the recommendations from his evaluation are already in process, such as having true alternative education opportunities at the Hildreth School and developing entry and exit criteria for student referrals to Hildreth. Jeff Colucci will be working with administration staff on refining the student referral process, reestablishing a TLC program at Marlborough High School, strengthening the therapeutic climate in our TLC programs and at Hildreth School, and increasing family involvement and outreach, as well as training and professional development of staff working in those programs. Before I invite Sharon Buckley up to talk about an update on the district's ongoing expansion of mental health services for students and families, were there any questions regarding the program evaluations?
Questions from the committee, Ms. Hennessy.
Only a comment. I wanted to say that I was very appreciative of seeing the review for the preschool program, highlighting some of the quality of the curriculum that's being implemented. I know that there has been a lot of work that's been done, and I think that's great to see that with, as you know, that being a transitional area, that's one of the areas of highlights. So
excellent.
Good stuff.
Thanks. And I invite, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Go. You want to finish? Or you were just going to
No, I was just going to invite you.
Okay, I'm just curious, this Linda Warren, so will she be working with us? I'm really interested in the assessment tools, what they're suggesting that we do to change.
So
Someone's
we
going to be coaching us on that?
Yes. So we do a more of a play-based assessment model where we're looking at observations to determine whether or not students are displaying developmentally appropriate skills, either motor skills, speech skills, play skills, social. And there are some other formative measures out there that can be implemented that will give more standardized measures and are aligned with preschool student outcomes that we have to report to the state on a 3-year cycle. So she's working with us on being able to look at those instruments and be able to purchase the assessment tools and then walk through how to implement them and be able to interpret the results.
Any other questions?
Okay. And now I invite Sharon Buckley up.
Thank you, Jody. Thank you all for inviting me here tonight. I'm excited to be here to bring you some information about the expanding mental health support services that we provide for our students and then by extension our families. I would be remiss if I did not start by thanking the efforts and the dedication and passion with which our counselors bring to their jobs every day. They can't do it alone, though, we know that, so we do employ the support of outside partnerships as wraparound services, and I'd like to bring you some of that information tonight. Those folks, too, are also dedicated and passionate, talented professionals who can find resources seemingly when they're impossible to find. I would like to start by saying the Assabet Valley Collaborative, we continue a partnership with them with their Family Success Partnership. Our district helps to support 60 seats to help reduce barriers to services. Oftentimes families know that they need help, but they don't know how to get it. So these folks were able to service 80 students in all this year, 71 of whom are still active. In the elementary school level, we service 25 students and families. I do have a breakdown for you. Kane, we have currently 3 students and families on the books. Richer, 10, and Jarrick, 12. Whitcomb School, we service 36 seats and by extension families. And when I say seats, if there's one student referred at Whitcomb, that entitles that entire family to receive the services. So it reaches far more than that certain number. And then finally at the high school in Hildreth, we are servicing 19 students. Advocates, we have reestablished a partnership with them in the last 2 years. So we bring advocate counselors in to provide therapeutic services on school grounds. This starts by having families referred. They do an intake outside at the Advocate Center, and then we provide space and opportunity for counselors to meet with students. We currently have 47 active students. 54 have been referred this year. 15 came from elementary school. Kane at 9, Richer at 2, and Jarrick at 4. Whitcomb, we had 11 referrals, and as you might suspect, the higher level and higher age range students are more apt to be in direct service. The high school had 20, and Hildreth, we service 8. Those counselors do go to every school building. We also, over the course of the last year and a half, have employed the services of a substance abuse counselor. We have found a very rich resource in a current intern who is working at Whitcomb. She has dedicated 1.5 days a week for direct services for substance abuse counseling. This position was acquired through a grant from the Attorney General's office and their opioid prevention grant, so we're still in the midst of that service. 32 students at Marlborough High School have employed her service, and they have seen her for 2 or more visits. Hildreth, we have 14 students who are receiving her supports, and they have accessed her for an average of 3 or more visits. We are looking to potentially expand her role. As we know, the issue around vaping and substance use and abuse is only growing. Finally, one of the big things that we've done to support mental health needs of students is to employ a bridge or transition program at the high school. Many of you may know that we have one in place at Whitcomb, and it's in its 3rd year of a 3-year grant. It will and is aimed to be fully sustained and has met with significant success. Whitcomb had 26 students referred this year to the transition program. 16 are currently active. At the high school, with this new program in place, 21 students have been referred and serviced. We currently have 5. Our census is down only because, unfortunately, 3 students are currently being hospitalized, so we anticipate that they will be returning to us soon. Of the referrals to the high school, 0 were due to concussions or medically related need. So that speaks highly to the relevance of the mental health supports that program is providing. At Whitcomb, 8 were medically or concussion related, 18 were direct mental health needs. On top of those programmings, we have been able to provide evidence-based training free of charge to the district via applications to offers from different networking groups with whom we belong for free training. They receive grants, they reach out to folks and look to see if we would like to employ their supports. UMass Medical School, 8 of our counselors today participated in the 2nd of a 2-day training on trauma-focused cognitive behavior therapy. We have seen an increasing need in our district of trauma-related concerns and issues. So we feel fortunate that free of charge, and we know nothing is truly free. There's always opportunity costs, but these counselors are dedicated to getting the skill set and to developing it, to bring it back to other counselors, but to service students directly. The Bridge Institute in Westboro is offering free training for anxiety and early psychosis detention, and we earmark counselors who are involved with the TLC programs in the school district to go. So there was very thoughtful and deliberate assigning of counselors to different trainings so that we would get the right training to the right folks, and then therefore to the right students. The Department of Mental Health and the State Department approached us. They would like to offer, for one of the first times in a public school district, free training for ACRA, which stands for the Adolescent Community Reinforcement Approach to Substance Abuse Education. This is usually reserved for treatment facilities and therapeutic settings, but they are interested in finding out whether or not this approach will help to directly affect students when they're having the issue. So we plan to meet with this group in, I think, 3 or 4 days, and we aim to have our LADC counselor trained and potentially, by extension, a few others. Am I doing okay on time? I'm almost done.
Yeah. Comment.
In the fall, we aim to have all of our counselors in the district trained in CBT, which is the cognitive behavior therapy. If you recall, a year and a half ago, we had all our counselors trained in DBT, dialectical behavior therapy. And in all honesty, we are rich with that training, but I think there's some work to do to embed those skills with more fidelity across not only counselors and their groups or therapeutic interventions, but also getting it out to classroom teachers beyond just the counselor role. Additionally, this year, I worked with Mary Murphy and Jody on getting Choice PD offerings around mental health initiatives so that teachers had skills and tools to use in their classrooms. Executive functioning was offered, mindfulness in the classroom, zones of regulation, response to school refusal. A grassroots effort has occurred at several schools. There are social emotional learning committees in place at Whitcomb. They're in their 2nd year. At the high school, we started an SELC committee. It really needs to start from those grassroots and work its way up and become part of the culture of the schools. As you visit schools in the district, and I encourage you to do so if you haven't already, you will see some of these things in place even as far out as the elementary schools with calming corners. Some folks promote kindness weeks. Sensory paths that were supported by a local organization, the Women Junior Women Club. They also have safe harbor rooms, zones of regulation, proteges. It could go on. But it is happening in our district. It might not feel like it's happening fast enough, but we really have grown in the last several years, I feel, exponentially. And then finally, some of the richest resources that we can have are the networking capabilities that have come along. The Brookline Center with the work we're doing with their Bright program and the grant we were fortunate enough to get from the Metro West Health Foundation. They are consistently sending us opportunities for trainings. We are now partners with the Massachusetts School Mental Health Consortium, the Social Emotional Learning for Massachusetts Committee. Of course, Mike mentioned the Middlesex Partnership for Youth, SHINE, and I could go on, but that is a snapshot of the social, emotional, and behavioral things that we're doing to support students and families. I would welcome an opportunity to come back, and I can share with you the things we're doing around academic supports and counseling.
Questions from the committee? Any questions, Ms. Hennessy?
Sorry, I'm just going to say that's great. Thank you.
You're
no,
welcome.
It's great to hear an update because I think we get pieces here or there, but like to hear that list, which I'm sure is not even as comprehensive as you could give, you know, when you didn't feel under pressure. But, you know, I'm glad to hear that we are providing substance abuse and, you know, support. Because we definitely need it and we need to have it available as opposed to trying to avoid the issue altogether. I guess the question I have is, are you able to give some insight as to how those folks are able to get that support? Is that something where it's like they self-identify on trying to reach out to someone? Or is it sometimes where a counselor or a teacher may see something and then try to spark a conversation? I'm just kind of curious about where things are standing.
It's a combination of those things. Sometimes a counselor will be provided that information directly from the student. They might not yet be ready for counseling, but it's the job of the counselor to kind of coax it along, or at least to show the benefits of having the intervention. Sometimes it might come out of disciplinary hearing where it's offered. It's never a requirement for return. But most families are looking for ways to support their student and to find ways to prevent either recurrence of the behavior or prevent it from getting worse. But we do have some students who self-refer. So,
Okay.
and that's a good sign.
That's a great sign, but thank you. I appreciate it.
Any other questions?
Thank you, Sharon.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much. Minutes of February 26, 2019.
Go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to suspend the rules to move to action item 9A. Move it forward.
Motion made and seconded to move up item 9A. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carries.
So 9A is the reason that you're all here, and I think that it's really important for us to get some facts out and some information that we need to share amongst ourselves, since it's against open meeting law for us to talk about this unless we're in an open setting. So I'm going to ask the superintendent to start off the conversation that we're going to have amongst ourselves. After all the facts and everything are out and we deal with our business, we will give people the opportunity to speak if you still want to. But that's what we're doing.
Thank you, Madam Vice Chair. So what you have in front of you right now is a result of work from the Chief Procurement Officer and the Public Facilities Division. It's a request for proposals for a rental of use of available school space for a before and after school program. So as we have proposed this to you, the item is for you now to consider. The way that it would work is to accept or reject the bid for any reason the school committee deems fit, or to table this for the time being. So the way that this bid has worked is it has gone out to, I believe, 7 vendors in total. And the way that Chapter 30B, Section 16 works is that this truly is a bid about the rental of space. So it, in effect, is more of a rental bid than it is a programmatic bid. So when we're looking at the bid results and the remaining recommendation here, the recommendation from the Public Works and the Chief Procurement Officer is to award to the highest bidder. That's the recommendation that we put forward. So now this item moves to your purview as you have had time to think about this and make a decision. Or not have time to make the decision.
If I could just follow up on that, I just want to remind everyone that this is a 30B process. This is not something that we have control over. It's a process that's required by Mass General laws. And although there's many, many times over the year with many, many contracts that I would like to change, because of this process, we don't have that opportunity. And I just want to keep that in mind, that if we have a number 2 bidder that we would prefer, there has to be a basis for eliminating the number 1 bidder. And so on all the way down the line. So it's just, I just want everyone to keep in mind, this isn't because we decided to do something or not do something, or we prefer this one or that one. But this is what's required by Mass General laws that we have to follow in moving forward. So.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Mayor. I should have explained clearly that every 5 years we have to go through this process and have a public bidding, similar to the way we do transportation and cafeteria management.
Other questions, comment?
So one thing that I have learned today is that there in fact are 2 different ways that before and after school programs can go through the bidding process. One is the way we have historically always done it, which is as a real estate transaction. Basically, companies respond to our request for companies to come forward to pay us money to rent space in our schools to provide their program. And the way we have always done the bid process in the past is to do it strictly as a real estate transaction and not based on the program itself. I have a personal problem with that. We are a district that through the years has changed dramatically. We have a lot of students in our district that have a lot of needs that need to be addressed, and having them have the ability to get that extra level of support in their before and after school program is not only important to families, which is incredibly important, but it's also important to us. I mean, if we want to continue to help our students to achieve, we need to give them all the supports that we possibly can to do that. And to go through a process that's strictly based on real estate transaction, to me, doesn't speak to our need for providing families with that option. So I don't feel confident explaining the second bid process. Is that something that perhaps you could
Yes,
explain?
under, I
Thank
believe
you.
it's section 6, we would do a qualifications-based process. This would be similar to, we've done other bids like this before, and the way that would work is if you release a qualifications-based process, you would actually have price be the last factor that you would take. You actually wouldn't even open up price until you rated the companies. So you would go through, and the district would have to set the parameters on the qualifications and how they're going to be rated. The most common form of that is using, advantageous, most advantageous, and not advantageous. So an example might be the size of the groups are going to be between 13 and 10 students. That'd be advantageous. Below 10 would be most advantageous. Those would be the types of things that we would rate the proposers on. After we rate them and put them in order, as in the most advantageous proposer, then you open up the price section. So a lot of times in those types of bids, you can really have ties, because two bids can be very close to each other, because it's very hard to say one program could be substantially better than the other. Then it would come right back down to the funding and the rental.
So my personal opinion is money is important, obviously, but it shouldn't be the determining factor for me in order to decide what type of program we're offering here.
Ms. Hennessy.
Thank you. I very much agree with you, and I think as I tried to look back, not only on the current RFP, but going back to 2014 when we had last done this undertaking, I think one of the things that really just struck me was that there really wasn't as much of a discussion around some of the diversity issues, the needs of like free and reduced low income needs across the board, which we've only watched continue to increase a large percentage since 2014. I don't have that change of number, but I know the percentage has just dramatically increased. We even in our discussion tonight about the food services area, where we are seeing that I think it's over $1,000 plus, where we are still out of pocket that money. And I know we're trying to collect on things, but I think it's just speaking to the need of our population. As well, I do have a concern where I would want to make sure that our minimum enrollment numbers at each of the locations would really be able to allow the programs to run. Because again, we have many members of our community where dual members of the family are needing to work. And so they need to have something at the school, able to care for their children in a safe environment. And whether that's going to be, 2 students, 10, 20, 30, whatever. But I was a little bit concerned, and I have to admit that I wasn't quite sure if that really came into play very much within the current RFP, and I don't believe it did. And that I think is a very important situation, because I think our community needs to have that type of support. Just to the points that Ms. Buckley was just speaking about, the social-emotional needs of the mental supports, we need to have that. This needs to be an extension, and before school, after school, it needs to meet the quality of our community needs. So I do think that we need to look at potentially another opportunity here.
I just want to, I understand the comments, I understand the communications we received from a lot of people today, but let's face it, the bottom line is, you don't like the results of the RFP, that's why we're talking about changing it. We don't like the results of the RFP. This is exactly the place we were at 5 years ago. Just keep that in mind. It was exactly the opposite 5 years ago, where we had a changeover in our after-school program, and I'm disappointed in the people that are doing it now. Not only didn't they come in second or third, they came in the bottom of the RFP process. And to use the most precious thing that these parents have to get back in the game, I think is inexcusable. To use the kids as a pawn to get back in the game, because they didn't, they either didn't take the process seriously and have used technicalities to try to get it changed. And it's the same RFP they responded to last time. They could figure it out last time, but they couldn't figure it out this time. So I just want to be clear as to why the committee is looking at doing this.
That is.
So with all due respect, I don't agree with that statement. I think I do agree the RFP is identical to what it was 5 years ago. We are not the same committee, we are not the same community, we are not the same educators as we were 5 years ago. And if our goal is to narrow the achievement gap and to make sure that the students of our system and the parents in our communities are getting the needs that we can hopefully provide, it's not a real estate transaction any longer. It becomes, what programs can we do? Whether it's before school, after school, in school. And we, I believe, as a school committee, are focused more, or at least I'll speak for myself, on the total package. And so while, yes, the process was the same, I think we were fortunate. We got 7 bidders this time, which is amazing that there was actually 7 companies that looked at our community and said, we want to be here to help. But there was no measurement of that help. And I think that's where, since there are 2 possibilities of under Section 30 to do this bid, it's more appropriate to do one that's based on qualifications, not on a real estate transaction. So.
And I agree, and I take some umbrage with what you said in that I am not stating my opinion on how we should choose a program based on pressure from parents who are clearly concerned about their kids, and I understand that. But we, as a governing body, have to weigh our legal responsibility. We don't have a choice. We cannot just say, oh, you're right, let's forget about this process and just keep Kidsborough in there. We can't do that by law. We have to go through this 30B process one way or another. And with that in mind, regardless of what the outcome of the first process was, I don't think that the first process that we used serves us in the way that we need it to serve. I personally have no allegiances to any of the 7 companies that are out there. I do have an allegiance to providing the best care that we can as a community as an option to our families. And I don't feel that the process that we went through helps to determine that. Not to mention the fact that 5 years ago, when we did this process, we got copies of the responses from all of the bidders. So I was able to read what each company was going to provide, was projecting to provide. I didn't see any of that this time. So even if we weren't talking about a second way of determining this, I personally was not prepared to vote on this tonight because I haven't seen what any of the companies were even talking about. The only thing I saw was who ranked higher in the money game. And to me, money's important, of course. We have a fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayers to not squander, money and to get the best that we can for our district. But that's not the purpose of this exercise. This shouldn't be a money-making venture. This should be, how are we going to provide a service to our families that they need? And that's why I personally think we should redo the bid process using the other standard.
Ms. Hennessy.
So, thank you. While I very much understand the concerns that you have raised, that's actually why I kind of did my due diligence as quickly as I could. Honestly, I have been traveling, so I really didn't get to open up the packet and start looking at things until Monday morning. I started looking at things, and so I spent my time actually going back to 2014 to try and actually look back at how that process had run. And the information that I was able to pull up, it actually was 3 bidders that were involved. And the information that was provided really spoke nothing to the economic situation, the diversity that we were just speaking about, or the changes relative to our community that have really drastically occurred over the last 5 years. And that, to me, was something that I was very concerned about. I think some of you may have seen my request late last night, and unfortunately, it's just the nature of the being as far as timing, but I had sent an email where everybody was copied on it within the group. So, I had requested that we all be provided with the current RFP information and a rundown of the information of the 7 bids that had come in, so that we could understand also the fee implications, because that was something that we did get last year. And I felt like that was very important to understand, once again, the total package, the way that it would affect all of our population. And after receiving that information, which I appreciate, I mean, it's, kind of a late request, if you will, but I think it's really necessary for us to have the information to be informed to make the decision. I am concerned based upon the 2 things that I just mentioned. Our population has dramatically changed. Our free and reduced have dramatically changed since 5 years ago. And the enrollment numbers and the way that that was really spoken to within the RFP did not really clearly understand if we were going to be able to run the programs in each of the schools, whether it was based on a low number or a high number. It really didn't speak to that, and that's a concern to me. When I looked back in 2014, there were different implications from each of the different bidders about where they were going to potentially service our population or not. So I think that's really critical, and we didn't have the full picture within what was offered and the information provided back. So while I think we had a good picture, we didn't have, in my opinion, a complete picture. So I understand the concerns and frustrations, but I think that's part of our discussion, is that we need to make sure we have the full picture so that we are appropriately putting it out to the right bidder. I have no allegiance to anyone either. My request is making sure that we have appropriate staff there servicing our community members as best as possible. And if it happens to be the person that's going to, from a rental standpoint, provide a good amount of money that's going to come back in, that's obviously going to support our community and the group, great. If it's going to necessarily be a reasonable fee structure, so we don't have something that's out of whack, great too. But I don't think we have all those pieces of the puzzle in front of us. So I don't think it's fair to try to move forward on voting something if I don't have all the information in front of me to satisfy my needs. And I'm a high needy person, I get it. But I need more information to make sure that I'm doing my job, which is representing my community members, so.
Any other comments, questions? Mr. Gary?
So I have I guess several concerns with regard to this. Some of it is what some of you have already said. We don't have the complete picture just to compare one to another. The other thing that I have concern with is if we were to do another bid process, an amended one, or whatever, wouldn't that at this point skew the bid process because there's already been numbers put out? That's a concern. And then the other thing is, you mentioned like as a real estate transaction. I know we'd like it to be a program, but it really isn't part of the district. It's not a program that we run. It is a real estate transaction. It's a different company that runs it. We would like them to perform the way we, in conjunction with how we run our schools and the goals that we have set. But realistically, they're a separate company. They're going to run it how they run it. We can ask for those kind of things within the bid process, but I'm not sure how that's going to work. And then if you add on to that the legal aspect of it, or the 30B
bid process.
How do you get? We had a bid process. How do you throw it out? And we can reject it. You said we had 3 options. We can accept it, reject it, or table it. So what happens if we reject it? Does it go back out to bid?
If we reject it, we're rejecting all of the proposals.
Right.
So you can't reject one, you reject all.
Exactly. But then what's the process after that? Do we then start the whole thing over again?
Well, what I'm hearing is that people would like us to do a qualifications-based bid, which would be a separate bid.
But that's what I'm saying. Regardless of whether, say, even if we wanted to do the same kind of bid process, if we reject all the bids now, does the whole thing just start over?
Pretty much, yes, but we have to write it from.
So at that point, we could say.
Different bid.
We want to do it in a different way.
Okay. Correct, yeah.
I'm good.
Senator C.
Thank you. Just another thing that I would like to put out there for a discussion point. In many of the RFPs that we bring before us, such as food service, which we're in the midst of, when we've talked about the bus contract, there's been a school committee member that has at least been a point of reference for reading through things. And I feel like in some cases, maybe, not necessarily, but maybe a school committee member may have helped in some ways to have a different hat on when they were starting to review the RFP to potentially bring some of these concerns to light a little bit sooner. So I would request that if in fact we were going to be looking at potentially doing this again in a different way, whatever, that there might be a school committee member who might be one of the group that would be a part of that RFP process on reviewing things. I think that stays consistent with how we've handled other RFPs. So I would make that suggestion.
Any other comments, questions? Seeing none.
So I'd like to make a motion to reject the recommendation from the procurement officer to accept any of the bids and, well, okay, that's the first one. So motion to reject.
Second.
Motion made and seconded to reject the bids. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carries. So the superintendent will put together another bid package and work with the finance director on getting it out.
So to clarify, now that we are taking this over, we internally are going to put out the bid since it's not
We
a
do
real
all of our own
estate.
qualifications-based bids.
Right.
No, I don't want my procurement officer dealing
Right.
with qualifications, so.
Right. Just so everyone's clear on
So
that. So Doug is
Doug
going
and
to
I
put
will
together
start
the
working
RFP.
on language, and we'll start looking at similar bids from other communities.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Minutes of February 26, 2019.
Motion to, table them, please. They were,
Motion made and seconded to table. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carries. Minutes of March 12th, 2019.
motion to accept.
Motion made and seconded to approve. Any discussion? Ms. Hennessy.
I'm going to need to recuse myself since I was not in attendance for that meeting.
Motion made and seconded to approve. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carries. Public participation. Any public participation? Public participation. Seeing none.
No, they're raising their hands.
their hands.
Go right ahead. You have to go to
Please come
the
up and state your name and address and,
podium, make sure the green light is on.
Make sure
There's
the
a
green light's
there's
on.
a book on the podium. If people wouldn't mind just putting their name and address in the book, it's our record for a public address. Thank you.
state it for the clerk, please.
I'm happy that everyone was able to reject the bids tonight. I'm not only here as a parent, but I'm also a child and adolescent therapist in Marlborough. So I treat a lot of those mental health issues that are sort of increasing in our community. One of the things I love about Kidsborough is not just their ratio, which is 1 to 8, which is fantastic. But I've been able to refer a number of kids with anxiety to that program because I know they can meet their needs. There are other options in Marlborough. Boys and Girls Club are there. There's other low-income programs. But the only program that has been able to meet the needs of kids I work with who have anxiety and depression has been Kidsborough. So I have to make sure that everybody here does know that. And I work with kids in every single school in Marlborough: Kane, Jarwick, Whitcomb, the Hildreth. I work with every single school. My children both go to Kidsborough, and she was devastated to hear that it could possibly not be here anymore, and she wanted to come for this. So I just want to make sure that I sort of segmented the notion that mental health and the after-school program really do go hand in hand in the community. It's not just about money, like you guys said, but can they provide the support, the emotional and the behavioral needs for the kids that don't typically do well where there's 30 kids in a class. A lot of the after-school programs, it's limited staffing and a lot of children running around everywhere. And if you have a child who does have anxiety, social anxiety, OCD, generalized anxiety, depression, a mixture of them both, those programs aren't going to work. So it's really vital that we're able to choose a program where the ratios are under 10 for those kids that aren't able to attend the after-school programs because there's such a large number of children. So I'm sure everybody here wants to speak as a parent, but I want to speak as a mental health therapist that works with a lot of children in this community and their families. So I want to make sure that it's heard that we need an after-school program that does have a low ratio, because that in turn is going to lower the symptoms of mental health that these children have. The 3 children that I referred this year, they're not having those anxious symptoms anymore, and they can focus in school. They're doing better with their grades. They had anxiety because they were lacking in social skills. And the only program that could provide additional support to teach them social skills, to role play, to put them in a small group where there's 4 kids baking cookies, it's only been Kidsborough in this entire community. So I want to thank Kidsborough for that, not only as a parent, but as a therapist in this community. And tell them I'm here not as a pawn, but also as somebody who really, truly wants to be here to support them.
Thank you. Anyone else speaking? Anyone else speaking? Please come up and line up if you're going to speak, and maybe we can even put the book on the table so you can kind of sign it in advance. Thank you.
So mine's more of a question, and I don't know, is that allowed? Am I allowed to ask?
Go ahead, ask a question.
If you guys can answer
We'll let a
it.
question go. How's that?
State your name as well.
Yes.
Name and address.
Name and address, yeah.
My name is Shona Steffen. I live at 134 Woodridge Road. So my question is, I want to understand the process a little bit better and how you guys choose this. Choose the program that's going to take the space besides it being just a rental space.
That's what we've been doing in the past, is it's been on rental space.
Right.
And the process we're gonna use
Right.
for this process is gonna be a lot more objective.
I guess I just want to understand why it's even a rental space process in the first place. Because I would assume for transportation and for food services, you're looking at the nutritional needs of the students, and that's what's going to be provided. You're looking at the safety and the record of a transportation company. You're not just going by the fact that they're the lowest bidder or the highest bidder. So why would that not be the same here? Why wouldn't you look at the needs of the children?
Because we're not in the business of after school or before school.
But you are in those other two. Okay, that makes sense.
Right, we have to transport children, and we have to feed children.
Okay.
But we're not, we are, what we oversee is not providing an after-school or before-school program.
Got it.
That's the.
Thank you.
That answers my question.
Thanks for the question.
Hi, Megan Segerin, 34 Tecumseh Trail. What? I really dislike the fact that you called our children pawns in this. And that you're basically treating our children like real estate, money. I voted for you. I'm disappointed in what you've said here tonight. One of my kids doesn't even go to Kidsborough yet. She's supposed to go in the fall. My other child loves Kidsborough. They have enrichment programs. She's doing cooking. She's doing sewing. They have, like somebody said, 8-to-1 ratio. The one that's going to charge the most has 13-to-1, or pay the most has 13-to-1. That's unacceptable. That this is how we're going to go. That it was how it was going to go about. And it was just going to fly under the radar, and nobody was notified that this was happening. I'm glad. Thank you for rejecting it tonight. And I really hope that you're going to consider enrichment programs, ratios, where they're going to be located, and their qualifications of the people that are going to be there. No, it's not a school program, but they're on our school property. So please don't treat them like real estate. Now we're going forward. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Sarah Holmes at 479 Northborough Road West. I was a previous student of Ms. Buckley. She knows I don't do this publicly. I grew up here. I still live here. I sent out an email to a bunch of you yesterday afternoon. I represent that low income. I am a single mother of 2. I had to quit my job for 9 months, live with my parents, in order for me to get a voucher for my kids so I could go back to work full time. My son has been diagnosed with ADHD, oppositional defiant disorder, and my daughter also attends daycare. My son was attending daycares. We have been constantly kicked out. Every day I used to dread picking him up to sign a form of how he was doing in class. He doesn't do well with big groups. He doesn't do well with transitioning. And I had to stop and rethink everything over and what would benefit him. Not benefit my like what I would need, but what would benefit him as a student, for him to succeed and also gain for his future. I was appointed to Kidsborough. I didn't even think of Kidsborough, never heard of Kidsborough, and I was referred to them. And to this day, I think Bentley has only received, one sign? I only had to sign one thing for him the whole year that he has attended. I don't have to fear of him acting out, lashing out with his behavior. He has an IEP in place. We have recently decreased on some of the services that he needs for his IEP this year. And I have nothing but good things to say about Kidsborough because of the extra help, the curriculum that they also offer. They do inside homework with them. He just loves it. He benefited from behavioral, social, education, and I can now attend my full-time job out of town and be able to support my kids, knowing that he's in a safe environment, he loves what he's doing, and that he's able to act like a normal kid, even though he has these behavioral issues. And with the ratio and everything, it's perfect for him. So I am happy that you rejected. I applaud how you stood up and stated that you would really, going forward, think about the children and what they need. And I just hope that when you make your decision later on, you can go back, read my email, put a face to your email, and know that I represent one of those low-income, full-time, hardworking parents. I have no spousal support. I do this for my kids, and I'm now advocating for him, as well as my daughter and all the other children that attend Kidsborough.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Allison Veneziano, 316 D. Simone Drive. I have two boys who are both in Kidsborough currently. One's been there for 4 years. And as a parent to a kindergartner, I want to stress how important that 1-to-8 ratio is. These kids are 5. It's extremely important. I can understand raising the ratio for older children, but not a 5-year-old. So I agree with, the mental support as well. But I also think one thing that hasn't been pointed out yet is you're talking 5-year-olds. So I think that is extremely important to be considered in the quality of care. And I thank the committee for moving to reject the current proposal. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, Mark Dexter, 30 Sonia Drive. Everyone's made mention of the ratio. I know everyone's talking directly about Kidsborough, but just about the process that you're about to undertake and actually picking the next provider. Ratio is definitely the number one factor, and EEC obviously sets guidelines, and I don't know if you actually have to follow that or where the 13-to-1 ratio guideline came from. But Kidsborough does more. I was working, volunteering for committee member Ryan's book fair, Kane, and all of a sudden Miss Lucius, who runs the site on Kane, shows up and buys books out of our book fair for our school and redistributed those to our classes in Kane. I don't know if you can actually put a metric to that or experience of donations in the past or how you can actually work things like that. But Marlborough's a community. Yeah, we're a city, but everyone calls us a town because of little things like that. That's what makes Marlborough really, really stand out and really special. And that's what Kidsborough is part of as well. Thank you.
Anyone else like to be heard?
Hi, my name is Dorina. I am a parent of a second grader at the Dwork School, and it's against my better judgment to even speak because it's like looking a gift horse in the mouth. You did what we wanted, but I still feel compelled. The concern that I really wanted expressed is that treating this bid as a pure real estate transaction concerns me, because what then prohibits the person who wins the bid, the entity that wins the bid, from passing that cost on? They've won the bid by offering you the most money, but nothing says that they can't then pass that cost on to the parent, where the taxpayer now is paying additional funds to send their child to a program that may be not as good as the program that actually was not coming in with the highest financial bid to you folks. So that's my concern, and I just want to know, and I know you only take one question, it sounds like, Mayor, but I kind of want to know what criteria you're going to be looking at in this secondary bid process, whether you're going to be purely looking at ratios, or you're going to be looking at the types of activities that the program provides to the students, whether they provide any kind of snack or food, how long the program's going to go, whether they charge for you being late 1 or 5 minutes, because I know some daycares do and some after schools do. So I kind of want to know what criteria you're going to look at when you do put it out to bid again. Thank you.
Thank you,
We'll let the
Dorina.
educators figure the criteria out.
Thank you, Dorina. And since we just got this assignment, I would ask if we have a little bit of time to work on that.
Anyone else like to be heard? Anyone else like to be heard? Anyone else like to be heard? Thank you very much. We did take the input, and please understand, at this point, we were doing a real estate bid. Maybe it's something we should have discussed before, but, you know, this RFP was for a real estate bid. And I want to say that, you know, it really was a similar process to what we had last time, because it was the Boys Club and Fran Hurley, that many of you know, that came here and was not happy with me that time, because we were changing over to Kidsborough. So thank you very much for your input, and it will be taken in our next step. So thank you. Public hearing on the FY 2020 budget.
So, go ahead.
And again, we'll take this in our regular 4 stages. We'll hear from the public speaking in favor, questions from the public speaking in opposition, and questions from the committee members. Anyone speaking in favor of the FY 2020 budget? Anyone speaking in favor? Anyone speaking in favor? Any questions on the FY 2020 budget? Any questions from the public? Any questions from the public? Anyone speaking in opposition of the FY 2020 budget? Anyone speaking in opposition? Anyone speaking in opposition? With that, I'll open it up to questions from the committee members. Any questions from the committee members? Questions from the committee members? Questions from the committee members? Thank you very much, and I will close the entire public hearing and take up FY 2019 operating budget transfers.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll try and make this fairly quick, although I do have a few transfers for the committee to consider tonight. I just want to say before I start that we recently ratified a contract with our office support unit, and that contract ratification caused us to do some retroactive payments as well as up to salary for a number of staff, and those accounts went overdraft. So a lot of the transfer tonight is rectifying that. So I'll be pointing those out, as well as some other transfers that I'm requesting. At ECC, we're requesting $2,250, all of which pertains to the new contract ratification. At JARWIC, there's a request for $2,300 to be transferred, the majority of which pertains to the new contract being ratified, except for $1,000 that's being requested for custodial overtime. At Kane, we're requesting $20,000 to be transferred. $15,000 pertains to an additional para-educator for a school-specific need from now until the end of the year. There's $2,000 for a counselor stipend and $3,000 for the new contract ratification with the support union. At Richard, $950 is being requested, all of which is for the new contract that we ratified. Second page, at Whitcomb, there's a $10,000 request for a long-term substitute on the English line. And the next one, there's a confession from the Director of Finance I'm requesting $38,000 to be transferred back to a math teacher line. What happened here is there was a small glitch in Munis. One employee's encumbrance for the rest of the year did not take. That made it look like we had $38,000 available in that account. I saw the money, I jumped at it, and I requested it to be transferred elsewhere. That was a rookie mistake, and I apologize. So I'm now requesting the fund to be transferred back to that account. So won't do that again. The remaining transfers at Whitcomb all pertain to the new contract that was ratified. At Marlborough High, we're requesting $10,000 for an FTE change for a math teacher. $7,500 is a transfer from Hildreth to Marlborough High. A para position is moving from one building to another. The remaining transfers there pertain to the new contract with office support staff. District-wide transfers, there's $36,500 being requested as transfers, $16,500 for contractor services payment to Masbo and Aspet Valley, $4,500 to cover substitute bonus payments, $11,500 for overages and copy machine costs, and $1,250 for overages in the ELL and attendance lines. The remaining transfers pertain to the new contract that we ratified. Last but not least, I'm requesting $98,100 to be transferred from our tuition private day SPED account to cover a few SPED overages in multiple lines. As we know, when it comes to the SPED lines, we have move-ins, move-outs, and as that happens throughout the year, we have some overages and available funds in those accounts. Happy to answer any questions you may have.
Questions from the committee? Any questions from the committee? Entertain a motion.
Motion to approve the transfers.
Motion made and seconded to approve the transfers. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carries.
Thank you.
Let's vote on the FY20 budget.
Motion to approve the school committee budget of FY20 of $63,531,849.
Motion made and seconded to approve $63,531,849. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? And please make the record reflect I abstained from the vote.
Yes. Right.
Acceptance of donations and gifts. Donor's Choice, Whitcomb School, Mrs. Bry's class, $391.13. In Whitcomb School, Mrs. Hall's class, $368.04.
Motion to accept.
Motion made and seconded to approve. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carries. Mr. and Mrs. Campbell, Richer School, $50.
Motion to approve.
Motion made and seconded to approve. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carries. KPMG Boston through Boston Scientific, Kane School, Mrs. Gowan.
McGowan.
McGowan. $600.
Motion to approve.
Motion made and seconded to approve. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carries. American Heart Association, Richer School, $200.
Motion to approve.
Motion made and seconded to approve. Any discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor? Opposed? Carries. Reports of subcommittees. Ms. Hennessy.
We're meeting tomorrow.
We're meeting tomorrow. That's nice.
Policy, 9 o'clock. Be there, be square.
Mrs. Ryan.
I have something.
What do you have?
The final beam apparently is being installed tomorrow afternoon.
We get our hard hats? Thursday.
Is it only Tuesday?
Yeah.
Thursday. And we're all invited to sign, or only the building committee?
Everyone is
Hard
invited.
hat, everybody, okay.
We asked him.
Everyone's invited.
We're all invited, and it said to be careful of footwear, it can be muddy.
Yes, wear your rain boots.
So that's very exciting. We get to sign a beam that nobody will ever see, right?
Right.
But you'll know
We'll
it's
know
there.
it's there.
We'll know it's there.
It's Thursday afternoon. I believe we're meeting at 1:30. We're going to watch the crane lift the beam.
1:30 to get there to actually sign the beam. The ceremony should start at 2 o'clock, and we're very thankful that I believe it's the president of the MSBA will be joining with us for the ceremony. And there might be a couple short speeches.
Do we get like flashy silver markers or something?
Aren't we supposed to get, wait, aren't we supposed to get our pink hard hats?
hats. That's what I was saying. Get a hard hat.
It was that or a science lab, so I went with the science lab.
And the city is also reporting that the school is ahead of schedule.
It is ahead of schedule and still well within the budget, so we're really excited about it, so.
Excellent.
Any other subcommittee reports? Seeing none, members forum. Oh, man, they're all going up now. Tennessee.
Just gonna put one more plug in for that big show that everybody's been working really hard on for West Side Story. So
I
Friday
thought you were
night.
going to say the big show.
Big
Friday
show.
night,
Friday night.
Mr. MHS.
When you're jet.
Mr. MHS. Wasn't that the big show?
That was a big show too, but I wasn't here, so that happened.
That was last week.
Last Friday. But Friday night, Saturday night, 7 o'clock, and 1 o'clock on Sunday. Be there, support those kids. They've been working really hard. 2 o'clock, sorry, I apologize. It's been a long week for me already with the musical prep.
They're an hour late to the middle school one.
Yeah, exactly. We gotta get Michelle there on time, so we're
coming Friday, so I know it's at 7.
But, and I just have to give huge kudos to so many of the staff members that have been helping out, whether it's Mr. Rosenthal, Mr. Henry, Stacy Fullis with all of the backstage, Dave with his lighting and sound stuff, or Sarah directing it, but I'm also going to say Sharon Mattingly, who's been working on costumes, even though she really is not feeling so swift. So I just really want to thank
today.
Well, yeah, but she's not, so I just thank you to all of them because it's long, long hours, and I'm quite appreciative of all of their efforts to help these kids fulfill an area that they really love and are passionate about. So.
Bring the whole family.
Yeah.
Even the in-laws.
Even the in-laws.
Excellent. Can't wait to see you. And you can buy something at the concession stand for me.
Ms. Bodenhenger.
Thank you. So, as everyone here knows, I am the chair of our division for MASC for the state. And part of my responsibilities is to host periodic educational programs or interesting topics for school committee members around the state. And on April 6th, we are hosting here at the Courtyard Marriott a discussion on school start times. And there has been, there are a lot of districts that have brought in speakers to discuss the science behind why people are investigating this or making some changes. In our discussions at the Cape, it seemed to me that people get it, why the science is important and that sort of thing. It's just the logistics on how you do it that makes it very difficult. So between us and North Middlesex Regional School District, which is in some place they call Townsend, I don't know where that is, but I will be going there. Okay, so on Tuesday, the 2nd of April, they are hosting a speaker to talk about the science of it, and that's part 1 of the series. And ours on Saturday morning at 10 o'clock at the Marriott will be a discussion. I have people from 3 different districts that have changed or are in the process of changing their start time. One of which is Melrose, and Margaret Driscoll will be joining us. She's the vice chair of Melrose, but is also the executive director of MASBO, and just loves you. And loves him too. But so she is duly, up to the task of speaking both as a school committee member whose district did. Well, as a parent as well, but Melrose did change theirs, and they 2 years ago, I believe it was, and then also being able to speak on some of the logistics from MASBO's sort of perspective. And then I have folks from Ashland coming and also Acton Boxborough, because there was some questions about regionals and how they do it. So it should be a lively conversation. I hope some of you will be able to join us for it. It's not something that we, as a district, have really talked about that much, but pretty soon we're going to be one of the only ones not talking about it, because a lot of districts are doing it. So April 6th at the Courtyard Marriott, 10 a.m. There will be coffee and danishes, I promise.
Any other members? Any other members?
I have reviewed the warrant and will sign it.
Warrant's ready to go.
And we've begun our negotiations with the custodial unit.
Nice.
Oh, you're right. Thank you. Sorry.
Any other members? Seeing none.
None. Move to adjourn.
Motion made and seconded to adjourn. All those in favor? Opposed? Carries. Thank you very much.